The last time my sister-in-law called me family, her brother was lying in a hospital with burns on his arms. Her mother was coughing black smoke into an oxygen mask, and the police were searching the remains of a warehouse for evidence of arson. Sarah, please. Megan sobbed into the phone. You have to save them. I stood behind the counter of Mitchell Hardware, still wearing the orange safety vest from our Halloween event. Children in costumes had gone home. The candy bowl was almost empty. Through the front window, I could see the flashing lights of emergency vehicles several blocks away. Are they alive? I asked. Yes, the firefighters got them out. But Derek needs a lawyer. Mom does too. They're saying someone tried to destroy company records. Are they receiving medical treatment? Yes, but that's not the point. It was exactly the point, though I did not understand that until she kept talking. Megan wanted me to mortgage my father's house to pay their legal fees. She wanted me to tell the police Derek had been with me that night. She wanted me to protect the same man who had tried to take my home, empty my business accounts, and replace me with his boss's daughter. I listened until she finally said, "You're still his wife in every way that matters." By then, the divorce had been final for weeks. I looked at the new lock on the front door of my store and almost laughed. The ambulance already saved them. I told her, the doctors are doing the rest. For everything else, you should call your brother's new wife. Then I hung up. That moment, I thought the fire was the worst thing Derek Collins had brought into my life. I was wrong. The fire would eventually reveal who had forged my signature, who had stolen from my store, and who had planned to leave Derek holding the blame for crimes much larger than adultery. But 3 months earlier, I still believed my marriage could be repaired. That was before I heard my husband discussing how to mortgage my father's house without telling me. It started with a purchase order. I was checking invoices at the counter one Monday morning when I found a charge for $32,000 worth of roofing membrane and structural fasteners. The order had been placed through Mitchell Hardware's contractor account, but the delivery address belonged to Whitmore Construction, Derek's company. I called him immediately. He answered on the 4th ring. What is it? Sarah, I'm walking into a meeting. Did you use my supplier account to order materials? There was a pause. Not surprise. Not confusion. Annoyance. It's a temporary purchase, he said. I was going to tell you. When I had time. You ordered $32,000 worth of materials under my business name. My company will reimburse you. That isn't the issue. He sighed loudly. I could picture the expression he had started wearing whenever I questioned him. Eyes narrowed. Jaw tight. As though my voice itself was an inconvenience. Then what is the issue? You don't have authority to use the account without asking me. I'm your husband. You're not an owner of Mitchell Hardware. Not legally, he snapped. But after everything I've done for that place, don't pretend I'm some stranger. I stared at the framed photograph beside the register. My father stood in front of the original storefront, one hand resting on my shoulder. I had been 19, sunburned, and furious because he had made me repaint the entire window display after I spelled guaranteed wrong. My father had built the store over 30 years. Derek had installed 2 shelves and replaced a leaking faucet. What exactly have you done for this place? I asked. His voice dropped. Don't start. You used my credit without permission. I said the company will pay it back. Richard is finalizing a major county contract. Once it goes through, things will change for us. Richard Whitmore was Derek's boss and the owner of Whitmore Construction. He had money, influence, and a habit of treating local officials like employees. What does his contract have to do with my store? It's an investment in our future. Our future doesn't require you to hide purchases from me. You think too small. Sarah, there it was. The sentence he had started using whenever he wanted something I would not immediately give him. You're comfortable behind that counter. He continued. I'm trying to build something bigger. My father built something. A hardware store in Maple Glen. His tone made my hometown sound like a disease. I tightened my grip on the phone. That hardware store introduced you to half the contractors who gave you work when nobody knew your name. I know what your father did for me. Do you? He went silent. 8 years earlier, Derek had been a junior site coordinator with a truck he could barely afford and a credit score that made banks laugh. My father had introduced him to reliable suppliers, recommended him to local contractors, and guaranteed his first equipment lease. After Dad died, I used $25,000 from my savings to help Derek cover insurance, licensing fees, and payroll when a project was delayed. He cried when I wrote the check. One day I'll give all of this back to you, he had promised. At the time, I thought he meant the money. Now I understood that some people repeated a promise only until they no longer needed the person who believed it. Cancel the order, I said. I can't. Then transfer payment to my store today. Stop treating me like a thief. Stop using things that aren't yours. He ended the call. 10 minutes later, I received a text. Busy. We'll discuss it at home. There was no apology. That afternoon, my mother-in-law came into the store carrying a shopping bag from a boutique she once called a ridiculous waste of money. Linda Collins had been living in my house for 7 months. She walked slowly but without the cane she had needed after hip surgery. Her gray blonde hair was freshly styled, and she wore the cream sweater I had bought her during recovery. You're still working? She asked. It's 2 in the afternoon. I meant you're still behind the counter yourself. Derek says business is doing well. It is. Then hire someone. I have employees. Hire more. She set the boutique bag beside the register. I glanced at it. New clothes? Brooke took me shopping. I stopped sorting invoices. Brooke Whitmore? Linda smiled. She has excellent taste. Brooke was Richard Whitmore's daughter. She had returned to Maple Glen 6 months earlier after what people vaguely described as business training in Philadelphia. Within weeks, she began appearing at every construction meeting, charity event, and restaurant where Derek happened to be. She bought you that? I asked. She insisted. Linda pulled a silk scarf from the bag and held it against her neck. She said the color made me look younger. That was generous. Linda's smile sharpened. She's generous because she was raised with manners. Richard made sure she understood that successful families have responsibilities. I looked at the woman standing in front of me and remembered helping her into the shower after surgery. Linda had developed pneumonia the winter before her operation. For nearly 4 months, she could not walk across the room without becoming breathless. Megan lived 40 minutes away but always had work, a date, or a headache. Derek visited the hospital when his schedule allowed, which meant twice in 3 weeks. I went every day. After Linda came home, I changed her dressings, tracked her medication, cooked low-sodium meals, and slept with my bedroom door open so I could hear if she fell. One night, feverish and afraid, she had squeezed my hand. You're more of a daughter to me than Megan has ever been. I had believed her. Now she folded the scarf carefully and said, Brooke also told me Derek is handling the county redevelopment project. He mentioned it. Could change his whole life. Our life, you mean? Linda looked away for half a second. Of course, I knew that expression. It was the same one Derek wore when the truth was present but inconvenient. What else did Brooke tell you? Nothing important. Then why are you here? Linda pressed her lips together. You should be more supportive of your husband. I've supported him for 8 years. I mean emotionally. Men like Derek need encouragement, not constant questions. He used my business account without permission. He told me you were upset about that. He called you? He needed someone reasonable to talk to. I gave a short laugh. You live in my house, eat food I buy, and wear a sweater I paid for. But I'm unreasonable because I don't want Derek spending my store's money? Her face stiffened. You don't need to list everything you've done for me. I didn't. That list would take longer. She picked up her bag. This is why Derek feels suffocated. What does Brooke think? Linda's eyes flashed. She thinks he's talented. That wasn't my question. You're being jealous. Am I? Linda stepped closer and lowered her voice. A smart wife knows when to look the other way. I stared at her. There was no shame in her expression, no discomfort, only the confidence of someone who believed I would continue taking care of her no matter what she said. Are you telling me my husband is having an affair? I'm telling you that successful men form important relationships. With their bosses' daughters? You always make everything sound ugly. No, Linda. I asked direct questions. People who dislike the answers call that ugly. She turned to leave, but I stopped her. How did you get here? Brooke drove me. Where is she? Waiting outside. I walked to the front window. A white Mercedes sat across the street. Brooke was behind the wheel, wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy afternoon. When she saw me, she smiled and lifted one hand in a casual wave. She did not look embarrassed. She looked patient. as if she were waiting for me to understand that she had already entered my life and would leave only after taking what she wanted. That evening, Derek came home after 9. Linda had prepared nothing for dinner. Though she had spent the entire day at my house after shopping, I heated soup for myself and sat at the kitchen table with the suspicious purchase order in front of me. Derek walked in wearing a navy jacket I had never seen before. "Where did that come from?" I asked. He glanced down. "It was a gift." "From whom?" "The company. Companies don't usually give tailored jackets to project managers." He opened the refrigerator and frowned. "There's no dinner?" "There's soup. I've been working all day." "So have I." He shut the refrigerator harder than necessary. "Linda said you were rude to her." "Linda told me to ignore your relationship with Brooke." He froze. Only for a second. Then he rolled his eyes. "There is no relationship. You arrive together at events. She buys gifts for your mother. She places orders through my account. That order was mine. Using Brooke's company." "My company?" "No. Richard Whitmore's company." His expression changed. A small, arrogant smile pulled at one side of his mouth. "Not for much longer." I leaned back. "What does that mean?" He pulled out a chair but did not sit. "Richard is thinking about retirement. And he wants someone capable to take over operations." "You? Why not me?" "Because you're a project manager, not his business partner. That can change." "How?" Derek looked toward the hallway, checking whether his mother was listening. Then he lowered his voice. "The county project needs bridge financing. Once it's secured, Richard will restructure ownership." "Bridge financing from whom?" He hesitated. I already knew I would hate the answer. "We have equity in the house." My hands went still. "What house?" "Ours. My father's house. The house we live in. The house I inherited before we were married." "Sarah, don't turn this into a legal argument. It is a legal fact." He sat across from me and pushed the purchase order aside. "Listen to me. We refinanced the property, used the money to stabilize the project, and within a year I could own a major share of Whitmore Construction. You want to mortgage my father's house to finance your boss's company? I want to invest in our future. Why doesn't Richard use one of his own properties?" "The timing is complicated." "What does that mean?" "It means you don't understand large-scale construction." "Then explain it." He rubbed his jaw. "There are a few older contracts that need to be closed out before the county deal is finalized." "What kind of contracts?" "Insurance issues, material adjustments, paperwork." "Why does any of that require my house?" "Because we need liquidity." His eyes hardened. "Are you going to support me or not?" I looked at the man I had married. He used to ask for my opinion. Now he asked only for compliance. "Show me the contracts," I said. "I can't bring confidential company documents home." "Show them to my attorney." "That isn't necessary. It is if my house is collateral." He stood abruptly. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Make me beg for every step forward." I laughed once, without humor. "I funded your first step, and you've reminded me ever since. I remind you when you pretend you built everything alone." His face flushed. "You think I'd be nothing without you. I think you've started believing I owe you the things I used to give freely." He stared at me, breathing through his nose. Then he said, "Brooke believes in me." The room went quiet. He seemed to realize what he had admitted. I stood, then asked Brooke to mortgage her house. He opened his mouth, but a phone began ringing in the living room. Not mine, not his. Linda's voice floated down the hallway. "Brooke, sweetheart, I was just about to call you." Derek looked toward the sound. He did not look surprised that his mother called Brooke sweetheart. He looked worried that I had heard it. I walked past him before he could stop me. As I reached the hallway, I heard Linda lower her voice. "He's talking to Sarah now. She'll come around. The house is too much for one woman anyway." I turned back to Derek. He was no longer pretending. There was guilt in his face, but there was something stronger beneath it. Expectation. He truly believed I would surrender my father's house because he wanted a better title, a richer future, and a woman who made him feel important. "Good," he said after a moment. "You're here. We need to talk about refinancing the house." At the time, I thought that was the moment my marriage began to end. Later, I learned it had ended much earlier. This was only the moment Derek decided to use what was left of it to cover a crime. Derek waited for me to answer as if the decision had already been made. He stood in the hallway with one hand in his pocket, trying to look calm. Linda had stopped talking in the living room. I knew she was listening. There is nothing to discuss, I said. I'm not refinancing the house. Derek's jaw tightened. You haven't even seen the numbers. You haven't shown me any numbers. I told you the county project is almost approved, and I told you to show the contracts to my attorney. His face changed at the word attorney. Why would we involve a lawyer in a decision between husband and wife? Because one of us is trying to borrow against property the other one inherited. Linda appeared at the end of the hallway. You're making this sound like Derek is some kind of criminal. I turned toward her. I wasn't speaking to you. You're speaking about my son in a house where I live. A house where you're staying. Her lips parted. Derek stepped between us. Enough. Sarah, I need you to stop being emotional. I laughed. I said no without raising my voice. You're the one who looks angry. He took a step closer. I am trying to secure our future. No, you're trying to use my house to solve a problem at Whitmore Construction. There is no problem. Then why won't Richard Whitmore borrow against one of his own properties? Derek glanced at Linda. That small movement told me more than his answer would have. I looked directly at him. What aren't you telling me? Nothing. Is the county contract in trouble? No. Are there debts? Every company has debt. Insurance claims. His eyes flickered. I had guessed correctly. Derek folded his arms. You don't understand how major projects work. Then help me understand. I don't have time to teach you construction finance. You had time to use my store's account. Linda shook her head and let out a bitter sigh. This is what Brooke meant. Derek turned sharply. Mom, what did Brooke mean? I asked. Linda lifted her chin. She said you would make everything difficult because you're afraid of change. Brooke has been discussing my house with you? She was discussing Derek's future. My property is not Derek's future. Linda's expression hardened. You wouldn't even have that house if your father hadn't handed it to you. For a moment, I could not speak. My father had worked 6 days a week for most of his life. He repaired broken furnaces for elderly customers who could not afford full-service calls. He extended credit to families during layoffs. He died after a second heart attack, leaving me a store with a good reputation and a house with a 30-year-old roof. Linda called that being handed something. Derek looked uncomfortable, but he did not defend me. That hurt more than her words. Go upstairs, I told Linda. She stared at me. Excuse me? You're a guest in my home. You don't get to insult my father and then stand here waiting for me to apologize. This is my son's home too. Derek finally spoke. Sarah, don't order my mother around. Then take her somewhere else. Linda's face went pale. You'd throw me out after everything I've been through? I looked at her steadily. After everything you've been through? Her eyes shifted away. She remembered. She remembered the nights I slept in a chair outside her hospital room. She remembered crying because the physical therapist hurt her hip and begging me not to leave. She remembered how many times she called my name instead of her son's. But shame lasted only a second. Then resentment replaced it. I was sick, she said. Helping me was the decent thing to do. Yes, you don't deserve a medal for it. I never asked for one. You bring it up every time you want to control this family. I felt something inside me grow quiet. Not broken. Quiet. The kind of silence that comes when an argument finally reveals the truth. Derek rubbed his forehead. We're getting nowhere. I'll bring the refinancing packet home tomorrow. You'll read it. And then we'll make a decision. I already made one. You're my wife. That doesn't make my no temporary. He stared at me for a long moment. Then his phone lit up. Brooke's name appeared on the screen. He turned it face down. But not before I saw the message. Did she agree? I looked from the phone to Derek. So she's waiting for my answer. It's business. She knows you're asking me to mortgage the house. She knows the project needs capital. And what does she get if I say yes? His mouth tightened. You're being paranoid. No, I'm finally paying attention. He picked up his keys. I'm going out. To see Brooke? To get some air. Linda followed him into the kitchen. Don't drive angry. He kissed her cheek. He did not look at me before leaving. The next morning, I called our supplier and canceled every outstanding order placed without my signature. At 11, Brooke Whitmore walked into the store. She wore a fitted tan coat and carried a leather handbag that probably cost more than my first pickup truck. Her brown hair fell perfectly over one shoulder, and her smile was so polished it looked rehearsed. "Sarah," she said, "I hoped you'd be here. I usually am. It's my store." Her smile widened. "I need a new lock for my father's lake house." I gestured toward aisle 6. "Residential locks are halfway down." She did not move. "I was also hoping we could talk." "About locks?" "About Derek." I set down the invoice in my hand. "You're either very brave or very spoiled." She tilted her head. "I'm trying to be honest. Honest people don't wait until someone else's husband is involved." Her smile faded slightly. "Derek and I haven't done anything you can prove." The word prove was too deliberate. "You didn't come here to deny it." I said. "No. I came because this situation is becoming unpleasant for everyone." "Not everyone." She studied me. "I don't hate you, Sarah. That must be a great comfort to you. Derek respects you. He has an interesting way of showing it. He feels obligated to you." I laughed softly. "Did he tell you that?" "He told me you helped him when he was starting out." "I did more than help." "I'm sure you did." The condescension in her voice made my hands cold. Brooke stepped closer to the counter. "But people change. Their ambitions change. Some men outgrow the life they started with." I looked at her expensive coat, her perfect nails, and the confidence of a woman who had never been told that wanting something did not make it hers. "And when they outgrow you?" I asked. "What do you think they'll call it?" Her expression tightened. "You think Derek would leave me?" "I think a man who rewards loyalty with betrayal doesn't become loyal just because the next woman has more money. He isn't betraying you. Then why are you discussing my house with him?" She recovered quickly. "The refinancing is for the company. Your father's company. Soon it may be Derek's." There it was. The promise. The hook she had placed in front of him. I leaned my palms against the counter. "Your father is giving Derek the company? He's considering retirement." "That wasn't my question." She pressed her lips together. "If Derek becomes part of our family, the transition would be natural." "Part of your family." Her eyes held mine. "I think you understand what I mean." I did. She wanted me to hear it from her because humiliation was part of the pleasure. "You're asking me to finance my husband's future with you. I'm saying the mortgage would protect a project that could make Derek very successful. And if I refuse," she shrugged, "Derek will have to decide what matters more." "You've already asked him to decide." "He's been deciding for months." That hurt, but I refused to show it. Brooke picked up a display lock and turned it over in her hand. "Derek is tired of feeling like he owes you." "He does owe me. That's the problem." "No. The problem is that he wants to erase the debt without repaying it." She set the lock down. "You're holding him back. And you're putting criminal purchases in his name." Her fingers stopped. It was the first time I had seen her lose control. Only for a second, but I saw it. "What are you talking about?" "Low-grade roofing materials. Structural fasteners that don't match the project specifications. Orders transferred from one site to another." Her expression became careful. "You run a hardware store. Sarah, don't pretend you understand corporate procurement." "I understand invoices." "Then you understand that project managers sign orders. Not when someone edits them after delivery." A muscle moved in her cheek. "You should be careful making accusations. You should be careful leaving paper trails." She picked up her handbag. "I came here hoping we could handle this like adults." "No. You came to see whether I was weak enough to pay for my own replacement." She turned toward the door. Before leaving, she looked back. "Derek has dinner with my father tonight. Tell him to order something expensive. He won't be using my account." After she left, I locked myself in the office and called Evan Porter. Evan had supplied building materials throughout western Pennsylvania for nearly 20 years. My father trusted him, which meant I trusted him more than most people. "I need to ask you something," I said. "About Whitmore." "Il s'est traité." "You already know?" "I know Derek's name started appearing on orders he usually wouldn't handle." "What kind?" There was a pause. "Sarah, this conversation could get ugly." "It's already ugly." He exhaled. "Whitmore's been ordering high-grade materials on paper and accepting cheaper substitutes at delivery. Then some of the original materials disappear." "Disappear where?" "Resale. Probably. Maybe private jobs. And the paperwork? Most of it lists Derek as the approving project manager. Does he know?" "I can't answer that." "Can you tell me whether the orders are legitimate?" "No." The answer came too quickly. I understood what he meant. Someone might be listening, or he was protecting himself legally. Evan, did you see my store's account number on any of them? Another pause. Yes. My throat tightened. How many? At least 4. Send them to me. I can't send company records without a formal request. What can you do? I can tell you to protect your accounts. Today. I closed my eyes. Is Derek in danger? If those projects are audited, every signature matters. Is someone setting him up? Maybe. Is he helping them? Evan's voice softened. You've known Derek longer than I have. That was not an answer, but it was enough. 2 nights later, Linda announced she was hosting a family dinner. In my house, she invited Megan, Derek, and Brooke. I learned about Brooke's invitation when I found 6 place settings on the dining table. I picked up the extra plate. Who else is coming? Linda avoided my eyes. Brooke. No, she's Derek's colleague. She's sleeping with my husband. Megan, who had arrived early with a bottle of wine, nearly dropped her purse. Sarah. What? You can't just say something like that. Why? Does saying it make it worse than doing it? Linda snatched the plate from my hand. You will not ruin this evening. I didn't invite my husband's girlfriend to dinner. She is not his girlfriend. The front door opened. Derek entered first. Brooke followed him. She carried flowers and handed them to Linda. For the hostess. Linda smiled as though she had received an award. How thoughtful. I watched my mother-in-law accept flowers in my kitchen from the woman pursuing her married son. Derek met my eyes. Don't start. I almost admired his confidence. He brought his mistress into my home and warned me not to cause trouble. Dinner began with Brooke discussing the county redevelopment project. She spoke about budgets, public grants, and long-term growth. Derek nodded at everything she said. Megan asked whether Richard truly planned to retire. Brooke smiled at Derek. My father believes the company should stay in the family. Linda raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. I did not touch mine. Halfway through the meal, Linda looked at me. Derek says you're refusing to refinance the house. Megan stopped chewing. Brooke lowered her eyes, pretending the conversation embarrassed her. Derek did nothing. That's between Derek and me, I said. Linda waved her hand. It affects the whole family. No, it affects my property. You're married. There shouldn't be your property and his property. Interesting. Does that apply to Brooke's father's company too? Brooke smiled without warmth. This isn't about me. It seems to be almost entirely about you. Derek set down his fork. Sarah. What? We came here to discuss this calmly. You brought an audience because I already told you no. Linda leaned forward. You are being selfish. Derek has a chance to become someone important. He is already someone. The problem is he doesn't like who he is unless a rich woman is applauding. Derek's face darkened. That's enough. No, I don't think it is. Linda slapped her palm against the table. After the divorce, Derek should keep this house. Silence fell. Even Brooke looked surprised. Linda continued, encouraged by the attention. He's maintained it for years. You don't need all this space. What does one woman need with a house this large? Esther daher. When you couldn't walk to the bathroom alone. Was I one woman then? Her mouth tightened. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. You helped because you were my daughter-in-law. I helped because you were sick. And now you think that means you own everyone? I own the house. Megan looked at Derek. Are you really getting divorced? He wiped his mouth with his napkin. We're discussing our options. Brooke's expression remained composed, but I saw satisfaction in her eyes. Derek reached into the leather folder beside his chair and placed a document on the table. I had an agreement prepared. I did not touch it. What agreement? A property and debt allocation. You already hired a lawyer? It's preliminary. Before asking whether I wanted a divorce, you agreed our marriage has problems. I agreed you were behaving like a man who wanted one. His eyes hardened. Read it. I opened the folder. The agreement stated that Derek had contributed labor and financial value to the old house and should receive a portion of its increased value. It also described debts connected to Mitchell Hardware and Whitmore Construction as shared marital obligations. My husband wanted part of my inheritance. He also wanted me responsible for whatever his company had done through my accounts. I looked up. Who wrote this? My attorney. Does your attorney know the house was inherited? He knows the situation. Does he know you're sleeping with your boss's daughter? Brooke pushed back her chair. I won't sit here and be insulted. Then don't sit in my house. Derek stood. Apologize. I looked at him. To whom? To Brooke. The absurdity of it almost made me smile. Linda pointed at the document. Sign it and stop dragging this out. I turned to Derek. Is this what you want? He did not answer. Look at me, I said. Do you want a divorce? He glanced at Brooke, then back at me. I want a future where I'm not punished for being ambitious. That wasn't the question. His silence became the answer. Do you love her? Brooke held her breath. Linda watched me like she was waiting for a performance. Derek rubbed the back of his neck. Brooke understands the future I'm trying to build. I felt the last piece of hope leave me. There was pain, but beneath it came relief. I had spent months trying to save a marriage Derek was using as collateral. I closed the agreement. All right. He frowned. What? I agreed to the divorce. Linda's mouth opened. Megan whispered. Sarah. Brooke stared at me, searching for tears. Derek looked more alarmed than pleased. That's it? He asked. You wanted an answer. You're not even going to fight? For what? His face flushed. Our marriage. You brought another woman to my table and asked me to surrender my house and assume your company's debts. What part of that marriage am I supposed to fight for? He stepped around the table. You're making a decision while you're angry. No, I've been angry for months. This is the first calm decision I've made. Linda stood. Then we'll need to discuss living arrangements. Yes, I said. You have 3 days to move out. She stared at me as though I had struck her. You can't do that. I just did. Where am I supposed to go? I looked at Brooke. Your new daughter-in-law seems generous. Brooke's face lost color. Derek pointed at me. You're going too far. No, Derek. I've spent 8 years going too far for all of you. I picked up the agreement and handed it back to him. My attorney will contact yours. You don't have an attorney. I will by morning. I left them at the table. From the hallway, I heard Linda begin to cry. Not because her son's marriage had ended, because she had realized the house was ending with it. I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and called Allison Grant, an attorney my father had trusted. She answered after 2 rings. Sarah, is everything okay? No, I said, but I think it can be. I told her about the divorce agreement, the mortgage request, the unauthorized store purchases, and Evan's warning. Allison did not interrupt until I finished. Then she asked, do you still have access to every business account? Yes. Does Derek? Yes. Not tomorrow. Tonight. I opened my laptop. What else? Do not sign anything. Do not warn him that you're collecting records. Save every invoice, email, text, and login report you can find. You think this is criminal? I think someone wants you financially attached to whatever Whitmore Construction is doing. I pulled up the first purchase order, then the second. Then a document I had never seen before appeared in the shared account. It authorized a $400,000 material purchase. The approving manager was Derek Collins. The payment authorization belonged to Mitchell Hardware. My name appeared at the bottom, Sarah Mitchell, but I had never signed it. Allison, I whispered. What? I found something. What kind of something? A purchase agreement with my signature. Did you sign it? No. Her voice became sharp. Download it now. Save copies in 3 places. Then change every password you have. Downstairs, Linda was still crying while Derek tried to calm her. Brooke's voice carried through the floor. This will all be easier once Sarah understands she can't stop us. I stared at the forged signature on my screen. They still thought I was the obstacle. They had no idea I was about to become the witness. By 7 the next morning, Derek no longer had access to a single dollar connected to Mitchell Hardware. I changed the banking passwords first, then the supplier accounts, payroll system, warehouse alarm, company email, and delivery authorization codes. At 8:15, Allison Grant arrived at the store carrying a legal pad and 2 cups of coffee. She placed one in front of me. Drink that before you make any more decisions. I already made the important one. You decided to divorce him. That doesn't mean you should operate on 3 hours of sleep. I handed her a folder containing the forged purchase agreement. She examined my signature for several seconds. It's good, she said. That's not reassuring. I mean, the forgery is good. Whoever did this had access to multiple examples of your signature. Derek has seen me sign thousands of invoices. Did he prepare this document? I don't know. Then don't accuse him yet. I stared at her. You think he might be innocent? I think innocence and ignorance are different things. Derek may not have forged your name, but he benefited from the document. Allison slid the agreement back into the folder. We need to separate your property from his problems before he realizes how exposed he is. She asked for my father's will, the deed to the house, the store's incorporation records, and every bank statement from the past 3 years. When I told her the house had been left to me before my marriage, she nodded. That helps. But Derek's attorney is already arguing that marital funds increased the property's value. He replaced gutters once. Did you pay for the gutters? Yes. Then we document it. He painted the porch. Who bought the paint? My store. She raised an eyebrow. This may be easier than I expected. I almost smiled. Then she asked whether Derek had access to the original deed, tax records, or my father's personal files. My smile disappeared. Linda knows where I keep them. All of them? In the desk in Dad's study. Changed the lock on that room today. She's still living in the house. For 2 more days. She'll say I'm treating her like a criminal. Allison closed the folder. Sarah, someone forged your signature on a $400,000 transaction. You are past the point where hurt feelings matter. At noon, Derek stormed into the store. The bell above the door had barely stopped ringing before he slammed his phone on the counter. What did you do? 2 customers turned around. I kept my voice level. Which part are you asking about? My company card was declined. Your company card has nothing to do with me. The supplier account. That belongs to Mitchell Hardware. You locked me out. Yes. His eyes widened. You can't shut down active projects because you're mad about dinner. I didn't shut down your projects. I stopped you from financing them with my business. He leaned over the counter. Restore the account. No. Sarah. No. A man near the plumbing aisle watched us with open interest. Derek noticed and lowered his voice. You're humiliating me. You came into my store shouting. Richard called me in front of the executive team. The delivery was canceled because you revoked authorization. Then Whitmore Construction can place its own order and pay its own bill. We needed your vendor rate. You needed my credit. His nostrils flared. You know what this project means to me. I know what you're willing to take from me for it. He glanced toward my office. Where are the old purchase files? Why? I need to compare invoice numbers. For which order? All of them. Be specific. His face tightened. Stop interrogating me. You're asking for my records. They involve my projects. They involve my business. He reached for the gate beside the counter. I stepped in front of it. You are not going into my office. For a second, neither of us moved. Derek had never hit me. He had never needed to. His anger usually worked because I rushed to calm him before it grew. This time, I let him stand there with it. You're really doing this, he said. Yes, throwing away 8 years because my mother said something stupid. This isn't about Linda. Because Brooke came to dinner? It's about the affair, the forged signature, the unauthorized purchases, and your attempt to mortgage my house. His expression changed when I mentioned the signature. Not shock, fear. It was brief, but I saw it. What forged signature? The one on a $400,000 purchase agreement. I don't know anything about that. Then why do you look scared? I look angry. No, I know your angry face. He looked toward the customers again. Where did you get the document? From my account. Show it to me. My attorney has it. The color drained from his face. You gave company records to a lawyer? I gave my business records to my lawyer. You have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. He lowered his voice until it was almost a whisper. Some of those documents are confidential. So the forged document is real. I didn't say that. You just told me it was confidential. His jaw worked as he searched for an answer. Finally, he pointed at me. You're going to destroy everything I've worked for. I looked at his finger, then at his face. You used to say everything you built was for us. It was. Then why does protecting myself destroy it? He had no answer. He picked up his phone and walked out. 20 minutes later, Linda called. I let it ring twice before answering. What have you done to Derek? She demanded. I removed him from my business accounts. He is furious. I noticed. Brooke's father could fire him. That sounds like a problem for Whitmore Construction. You're punishing him because another woman is younger than you. I held the phone away from my ear for a moment. Then I said, "You have until tomorrow evening to move your things." She gasped. "You said 3 days. That was 2 days ago. I can't pack that quickly. Megan can help." "Megan works. So do I. You know my hip still hurts. You spent 4 hours shopping last week. That was different. You're right. Packing will be free." Her voice sharpened. "I gave birth to the man you married. And I'm divorcing him. Not you. Your relationship with him can continue somewhere else." She began to cry. It sounded real. For a moment, the old reflex returned. I almost apologized. I almost told her she could stay another week. Then I remembered her sitting at my table, saying one woman did not need such a large house. "Sarah," she whispered, "I thought you loved me." "I did." "Then how can you do this?" "Because love doesn't mean giving someone unlimited access to my home after they help my husband take it." She stopped crying. Her voice turned cold. "Brooke would never treat me like this." "Then you should be excited to live with her." That afternoon, Allison helped me create the Mitchell Family Property Trust. The house remained mine, but the trust made it harder for anyone to use claims of marital contribution to force a sale or refinance it. When I signed the documents, my hand shook. Allison noticed. "You can stop." "No, this can wait until tomorrow." "If I wait, I'll start feeling guilty." "Guilt is not a legal obligation." "Feels like one." She leaned back in her chair. "Your husband trained you to feel cruel whenever you refused him." The words landed harder than I expected. "He wasn't always like this. No one ever is. He used to help my dad close the store. He brought coffee every morning. When Dad died, Derek handled the funeral arrangements because I couldn't think. That version of him can be real." Allison said. "So can the man who forged or allowed someone to forge your signature." I keep wondering when he changed. Sometimes people don't change. Sometimes the cost of pleasing them increases until you finally see who has been benefiting. I signed the last page. That evening, I changed the locks on my father's study. Linda stood in the hallway with her arms crossed. "You're locking me out now?" "I'm securing legal documents." "You think I would steal from you?" "I think you gave Derek information about the house without asking me. He is your husband." "Not for much longer." Her face twisted. "You sound proud of that." "I'm not proud. I'm finished." She followed me into the bedroom as I packed Derek's clothes. "You can't throw out his belongings." "I'm not throwing them out. I'm putting them in boxes. He paid for half of this room. My father paid for this room in 1987. She grabbed a shirt from the box. "This marriage is ending because you were too stubborn to support him. This marriage is ending because Derek wanted my money, my house, and Brooke at the same time. Brooke can give him a future." I stopped folding. "Then why does she need my house?" Linda's mouth opened, then closed. I stepped closer. "What exactly did Brooke tell you?" "That Richard plans to retire. And that Derek will take over the company." "How?" "They'll become family." "You mean after he marries her?" She looked away. "So you knew." "I knew Derek was unhappy. You knew he was planning a life with another woman while I was taking you to physical therapy. You and Derek had problems, and you decided the solution was helping him replace me." Linda lifted her chin. "I decided my son deserved more." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I placed the last shirt into the box. "You have until 6 tomorrow." The next day, Megan arrived in an SUV with barely enough room for Linda's luggage. She looked angry before she even entered the house. "Do you really have to do this now?" "Yes. Mom is still recovering. She drove to Harrisburg with Brooke last weekend. That doesn't mean she's fully recovered." Linda appeared behind her carrying a jewelry case. "I can't find the silver serving set. It's in the dining room cabinet." "Packed it. Unpack it." She froze. "It was a wedding gift. To my parents. I've used it for years. In my house." Megan rolled her eyes. "Sarah, it's silverware. It belonged to my mother. You never use it. That doesn't make it Linda's." I went through the boxes before they left. Linda had packed my mother's silver, 2 framed photographs of my father, a quilt my grandmother made, and Dad's old toolbox. I held up the toolbox. "Why is this here?" Linda's cheeks reddened. "Derek uses those tools. Derek owns 3 tool sets. These are better. These were my father's." Megan threw up her hands. Can we not turn everything into a tragedy? I looked at her. Your brother is leaving me for another woman. Your mother tried to take my house. Now she's packing my dead father's belongings. Which part would you like me to make cheerful? Megan's expression softened for half a second, but Linda spoke first. You're acting like a victim because Derek finally found someone who appreciates him. I set the toolbox beside me. I appreciate him enough to let him live with the consequences of his choices. They left without saying goodbye. 10 minutes later, I changed the locks on the entire house. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Derek wanted freedom before Thanksgiving. Brooke wanted the relationship public before her father's annual company gala. That urgency helped me. Derek's attorney initially demanded a share of the house, store profits, and future property value. Allison responded with bank records proving the house was inherited. Store funds paid for nearly every repair, and Derek had contributed less than $7,000 over 8 years. Then she sent his attorney a copy of the forged purchase agreement. The demands changed overnight. At our settlement meeting, Derek would not look at me. He sat beside his attorney, tapping one foot under the table. Brooke waited in the courthouse parking lot. I knew because Derek kept checking his phone. His attorney cleared his throat. Mr. Collins is willing to withdraw his claim against the residents provided both parties waive spousal support. I never requested spousal support, I said. Derek finally looked up. You could have. I don't want your money. His mouth tightened. You always find a way to make me sound small. I answered a question. Allison slid the revised agreement across the table. Derek signed quickly. Before I signed, I looked at him. Did you read it? He frowned. Yes, all of it. My attorney explained it. That isn't what I asked. He gave me an irritated smile. This is what you wanted. Sarah, don't make it dramatic. I signed. Outside the courthouse, Brooke leaned against her Mercedes. She walked directly to Derek and touched his arm. You're free? He looked at me before answering. Yes. Brooke kissed his cheek. It was meant for me to see. I felt pain, but not the kind I expected. It was the pain of watching someone celebrate the purchase of a house with termites. Derek turned to me. Richard is announcing his retirement plan before the end of the year. Congratulations. You don't mean that. You're right. His eyes narrowed. You think I'm going to fail. I think you should read everything they ask you to sign. Brooke laughed. Still trying to scare him? No. I'm giving him the advice he ignored when he was married to me. Derek put his arm around her waist. You'll regret walking away. I looked at the courthouse behind him. You filed first. His expression changed. For the first time, he seemed to understand that I was not being abandoned. I was leaving. 2 days later, Evan Porter came to the store after closing. He carried no files, only a folded sheet of paper with a list of invoice numbers. I can't officially give you anything, he said. I understand. Those numbers correspond to orders where the listed grade didn't match the delivered material. How many projects? 6 that I know of. All Derek's. His name is on the approvals. Did he sign them? Some were electronic, meaning someone could have used his login. Yes. What about the others? Evan's face tightened. I watched him sign too. My stomach dropped. Did he know the materials were wrong? I warned him. What did he say? He told me Brooke had approved the substitutions and the paperwork would be corrected later. So he knew. He knew enough to ask me not to mention it. I sat down. For weeks, I had told myself Derek might be arrogant, unfaithful, and careless, but not criminal. Evan took the chair across from me. There's more. He explained that Whitmore Construction had reported several shipments as damaged or stolen. Insurance claims were filed for the full value, even though some materials had been resold and others had never been purchased at the listed grade. Who approves the claims? I asked. Richard. Sometimes Brooke. And Derek? Project managers certify site losses. I looked at the invoice numbers. Why would Brooke put all of this under Derek? Evan lowered his voice. Because if the state audits the projects, someone will need to explain the materials. Richard owns the company. Owners hire lawyers. Project managers sign forms. A cold understanding moved through me. Brooke had not chosen Derek because she believed in him. She had chosen him because he was ambitious enough to sign, vain enough not to question her, and connected to a business account she could exploit. Do they know you spoke to me? I asked. I hope not. Can you testify? If I'm subpoenaed, that isn't the same as helping. I have employees and a family. So do I. He looked ashamed. I'm sorry. I believed him. But his apology did not make me safer. I gave the invoice numbers to Allison and stored copies in a safe deposit box. A week later, Derek moved into Brooke's condo outside town. Linda followed after her stay with Megan, ended in an argument about groceries. From what Megan later told a mutual friend, Linda immediately began rearranging Brooke's kitchen, criticizing her housekeeping, and referring to herself as the future matriarch of Whitmore Construction. Brooke tolerated it because she still needed Derek cooperative, but the company's problems were getting worse. Insurance investigators had begun asking questions about 3 public projects. A county inspector requested original material certifications. Richard postponed 2 meetings and told employees he was traveling for medical tests. Then, on the afternoon before Halloween, Derek came to the store. He stood across the street for nearly 10 minutes before entering. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled, and there were dark circles beneath his eyes. I need a copy of the old supplier authorization, he said. No, you don't even know which one. I know you don't have access to my records. He glanced toward my employees. Can we talk in private? No. His lips pressed into a thin line. Brooke says some invoices were routed through your account by mistake. Brooke says many things. We need to correct them before an audit. My attorney has the records. His eyes sharpened. Why are you still involving Allison? Because my name was forged. I told you I didn't do that. I didn't say you did. Then why are you treating me like a criminal? Because you signed documents after Evan warned you the materials were wrong. He went still. How do you know that? I did not answer. His face hardened. Evan had no right to discuss company business. Neither did you when you used my accounts. He looked over his shoulder toward the street. What did he give you? Enough. Derek leaned closer. Sarah, you don't understand what you're involved in. I understand someone filed false orders under my business name. Richard is handling it. Richard seems to be handling it by putting your name on everything. His eyes flickered. The thought had occurred to him too. But then his phone rang. Brooke. He stepped outside to answer. Through the window, I watched his posture change. He listened, argued briefly, then lowered his head. I could not hear her words, but I saw him nod. Once, then again. When he ended the call, he did not come back inside. He stood on the sidewalk staring toward the hill where my father's house sat. For one foolish second, I thought he might regret losing it. Then he got into his truck and drove toward Whitmore Construction's old warehouse. The next evening was Halloween, and Derek was about to learn that Brooke had never planned to make him the owner of her father's company. She had only planned to make him responsible for what burned inside it. By 6 o'clock on Halloween, Mitchell Hardware was full of children, parents, and elderly customers carrying smoke detectors under their arms. I had spent the last 3 weeks organizing our annual home safety event. My employees checked batteries, handed out reflective tape, and helped residents schedule free inspections. Mrs. Donnelly, who lived alone 2 streets from the store, held up an old smoke detector. My son says this one is fine. I turned it over. It expired 4 years ago. Her eyes widened. Smoke detectors expire? Everything does eventually. Behind me, my employee Jake laughed. Except Mrs. Donnelly's fruitcake. She pointed a finger at him. You ate 3 pieces last Christmas. Out of fear. The people around us laughed. For several hours, I did not think about Derek, Brooke, the divorce, or Whitmore Construction. I answered questions, filled candy bowls, and watched children run between the aisles wearing capes and plastic masks. Every time someone thanked me, I remembered what Allison had said. Derek had trained me to feel cruel whenever I protected myself. The people in my store did not ask me to surrender my house before they called me generous. At 8:30, Allison arrived with her 10-year-old nephew, who was dressed as a firefighter. She waited until he ran toward the candy display before speaking. You're keeping records of everyone who attends? We have a sign-in sheet for the free inspections. Good. I frowned. Why does that matter? It may not. But you told me Derek came by yesterday asking about invoices. If anything happens with those records, I want your location documented. You think he'd accuse me of something? I think frightened people look for exits. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Megan, I let it ring. Allison glanced at the screen. You're not answering? She hasn't called since she helped Linda move. The phone stopped, then immediately started again. I answered. Megan? Her breathing was fast. Have you heard from Derek? No. He was supposed to call me. I'm not responsible for his schedule anymore. This isn't about the divorce. Then what is it about? Mom said she was helping him with something at work. What kind of thing? She wouldn't say. She told me not to worry, then take her advice. Sarah, don't be like that. I closed my eyes. What do you want me to do? Call him. He listens to you. No, he doesn't. He used to. That was before he decided Brooke understood him better. Megan lowered her voice. I don't trust Brooke. You trusted her when your mother brought her to my dinner table. That was different. How? I thought Derek was just unhappy. I didn't know there was something wrong with the company. My grip tightened on the phone. What did Linda tell you? Nothing specific. She said Brooke needed help moving old files. Where? The warehouse off Quarry Road. My stomach dropped. Whitmore Construction owned an old storage facility near the edge of town. According to Evan's invoice list, several questionable shipments had been delivered there. When did they leave? I asked. About an hour ago. Was Brooke with them? I don't know. Call Derek. I did. He isn't answering. Call your mother. She isn't answering either. Allison had stopped watching her nephew. Her attention was fixed on me. What's happening? She asked. I covered the phone. Derek and Linda went to Whitmore's warehouse to move records. Her expression changed. Call the police. Megan heard her. No, don't do that. Why not? I asked. Because maybe they're doing something they don't want people to know about. That is exactly why I should call. You'll get them in trouble. They may already be in trouble. Sarah, please, just drive over there. No, they're your family. They chose a new family. You can't mean that. I mean, I'm not going to a warehouse connected to fraudulent orders in the middle of the night. Megan began to cry. I knew you'd punish us. This is not punishment. This is me refusing to walk into another problem Derek created. A customer approached the counter holding a package of batteries. I gestured for Jake to help her. Then I told Megan, call the police for a welfare check. She hung up. Allison touched my arm. You did the right thing. I should call anyway. Yes, before I could. Sirens sounded somewhere beyond Main Street. They grew louder. Several people near the front window turned toward the noise. Jake looked at me. That's more than one truck. My phone rang again. Megan. This time. She was screaming. The warehouse is on fire. The words made the entire store disappear around me. Where are Derek and Linda? They're inside. How do you know? Mom called me. She was coughing. Then the call cut out. Did you call 911? Yes. They said units are already there. Is Brooke with them? I don't know. Allison took the phone from my hand. Megan, this is Allison Grant. Do not drive to the warehouse. Go directly to Maple Glen Regional Hospital and wait for information there. Megan said something I could not hear. Allison's voice became firm. No, Sarah's not going to the warehouse. She is at a public event with dozens of witnesses. You will not ask her to leave. She ended the call and handed the phone back. I stared at her. You made that sound calculated. It is calculated. 2 people might die. And you cannot save them from a burning building. I used to know where Derek kept the warehouse keys. He's already inside. Linda can't move quickly. The firefighters will help her. I looked toward the store entrance. Allison stepped in front of me. If you go there, you interfere with an active emergency scene. If anything suspicious is found, your presence becomes part of the story. You think the fire was intentional? I think Derek went to a warehouse containing evidence after asking you for invoices. I think Brooke's family is under investigation. I think you should stay exactly where everyone can see you. My hands began to shake. Derek had betrayed me. Linda had humiliated me. Neither fact made the thought of them trapped in a fire easier to bear. For years, whenever anything went wrong, I moved first. I made calls. I found doctors. I paid bills. I calmed everyone down. Standing still felt like cruelty. Allison seemed to read my face. Sarah, not every emergency is yours to fix. At 9:12, Megan texted that firefighters had pulled Linda from the warehouse. At 9:20, she said Derek had been found near a side exit. Both were alive. I sat down behind the counter and pressed my hands to my face. Jake brought me water. Do you want us to close? I looked around. Several customers had already left. Others stood quietly, pretending not to watch me. Yes, I said. Close early. Make sure everyone gets home safely. Mrs. Donnelly touched my shoulder before leaving. Whatever happened, it isn't your fault. She could not have known how much I needed to hear that. Allison drove me home. I had barely stepped through the door when Megan called again. Mom's in the emergency room, she said. They're treating her for smoke inhalation. Derek has burns on his arms and shoulder. Are either of them in critical condition? No. Are they conscious? Mom is. Derek keeps asking for Brooke. I closed my eyes. Of course he was. Has anyone called her? She won't answer. What did the doctors say? They'll both survive. The relief that passed through me was immediate and complicated. Good. Megan snapped. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? I want you to come here. No. There was a pause. Mom needs you. Your mother has doctors and nurses. She keeps asking for water. She hates hospitals. You know how anxious she gets. I almost laughed. I knew exactly how anxious Linda became in hospitals. I knew how she preferred her pillows arranged, which medications upset her stomach, and how she needed someone to hold her hand when a nurse inserted in 4. That knowledge had once made me family. Now Megan wanted to use it as a leash. You're there, I said. You can stay with her. I have work in the morning. So do I. This is different. It always is when my time is involved. Megan lowered her voice. I'm not asking you to forgive anyone. I'm asking you to help in an emergency. They are already receiving help. You don't understand. Then explain it. She took a breath. The police are here. I said nothing. They're asking why Derek and Mom were at the warehouse after business hours. What did you tell them? I said I didn't know. That was the truth. They found boxes of records in Mom's car. I gripped the edge of the table. What kind of records? I don't know. Contracts, invoices, insurance papers. Were they burned? Some of them. What else? Her silence told me there was more. Megan, they found a gas can. I closed my eyes. Whose car was it in? Derek's truck. And? His fingerprints are probably on it. That happens when someone owns a gas can. They're saying the fire may not have been an accident. My heart beat harder. Where is Brooke? No one knows. Did Derek tell the police why he was there? He says Brooke asked him to clean out old files. Does he have the messages? He can't find them. Convenient. Sarah, what do you expect me to do? Her voice cracked. We need a lawyer. Then call one. We did. The criminal attorney wants $25,000 up front for Derek and another $15,000 for Mom. That sounds expensive. We don't have it. I waited. I knew what was coming. But hearing her say it still stunned me. You own the house outright. Megan said carefully. You could borrow against it. For several seconds, I could not speak. What did you just ask me? It would only be temporary. No, you didn't even think about it. I have already thought about mortgaging that house for Derek. My answer hasn't changed. This is different. He could go to prison. That is usually why people hire criminal attorneys. He was tricked. Then Brooke's family can pay. She's gone. Gone where? Her condo is empty. Her passport is missing. Her father says he hasn't spoken to her. I let out a slow breath. Brooke had sent Derek and Linda into the warehouse. Then she had disappeared. Megan continued quickly. If we can get a good lawyer, they can prove Brooke did this. Then the lawyer can use Derek's evidence. He needs more than that. What does that mean? Another silence. My voice hardened. What are you not telling me? The police asked where Derek was before he went to the warehouse. And? He told them he stopped at your house. I stood. He did not. I know. But. No. There is no but. He panicked. He lied. He said he came by to fix the back door lock. I changed that lock weeks ago. You don't have to mention that. I stared into the dark kitchen. Are you asking me to give him a false alibi? I'm asking you to say he was with you until around 10. 10. He was already inside the warehouse. You can say the time is confusing. No. Sarah, listen to me. The fire started after 10. If the police believe Derek was at your house, then Brooke could have started it before he arrived. Your mother was also there. Mom didn't know what was happening. She drove company records away from the warehouse because Brooke told her they were old files. And the gas can? That could have been planted. Then investigators will determine that. Megan's breathing became uneven. You could save them with one statement. No. You're asking me to risk prison for obstruction and perjury. You were married to him for 8 years. He tried to mortgage my father's house for the woman who sent him into that building. He made a mistake. He made hundreds of decisions. Megan began crying again. Mom always said you were the strong one. Your mother said a lot of things when she needed me. She loves you. No. She loved being cared for. That's cruel. Cruel was letting me bathe her, feed her, and take her to physical therapy while she helped Derek plan a life with Brooke. She didn't understand. She understood enough to ask for my house. Megan's voice rose. People could die because you're holding a grudge. They are not dying. You don't know that. You told me the doctors said they would survive. This isn't only about their injuries. Exactly. I spoke more calmly now. The ambulance saved their lives. The doctors are treating them. You're not asking me to rescue them from a fire. You're asking me to mortgage my home, pay their lawyers, and lie to the police. They're still your family. No, they made that decision for me. You can't abandon them now. I almost admired the word. Abandon. Derek left our marriage for Brooke. Linda helped him. Megan watched. But my refusal to clean up the consequences was abandonment. Call Brooke, I said. She won't answer. Then call Richard. He says Derek acted alone. Of course he did. Then I suggest you find out why the family your brother chose is so eager to sacrifice him. Megan sobbed. Please, Sarah, just tell the police he was with you. No. One sentence. One lie. You owe him something after 8 years. I felt the last thread of obligation snap. The ambulance already saved them, I said. As for the lawyer, the mortgage, and the fake alibi, you should call your brother's new wife. I ended the call. My hands shook, but I did not call her back. At 11:40, an unfamiliar number appeared on my phone. I answered. Sarah. Derek's voice was weak and rough. I sat down. You're alive. Barely. Megan said you'll recover. She told you what happened? She told me what you want. I didn't ask her to call you. She says you need money and an alibi. He breathed painfully. She shouldn't have said it like that. How should she have said it? Brooke set me up. Where is she? I don't know. Why were you in the warehouse? She said there were old materials we had to inventory before the state inspection. At night? She said Richard wanted it done quietly. And the records in Linda's car? They were supposed to be moved to the main office. Why were some burned? I don't know. Why was the sprinkler system shut off? Silence. Derek? I didn't shut it off. Who did? Brooke had access. Was she there? No. So the woman who ordered you to go there stayed away. I didn't know she'd run. You didn't know because you never asked why every illegal order had your name on it. His breathing grew sharper. I made mistakes. Sarah. Yes, but I didn't start that fire. Then tell the truth. The truth makes me look guilty. That isn't my fault. I need you to help me. No, please. It was the first time he had begged. Months earlier. That word might have broken me. Now it only made me tired. Did Brooke force you to sign the material substitutions? He did not answer. Did she force you to use my supplier account? Silence. Did she force you to ask me to mortgage my father's house? I thought I was going to own the company. You thought you were going to own it because you married her? She said Richard wanted family to take over. And you believed her. I loved her. The words came out before he could stop them. I closed my eyes, even burned, frightened, and abandoned. He still called it love. Then she's the one you should be calling. She won't answer. I did. Sarah. No. You don't get to discover my value only because Brooke disappeared. I could go to prison. You should have thought about that before you destroyed evidence. I didn't know there would be a fire, but you knew there were records to destroy. He stopped breathing for a second. Then he whispered. How much do you know? Enough. Did you give Allison the orders? Yes. His voice sharpened despite his pain. You have to get them back. No. If the police see those records, they'll think I was part of the fraud. Were you? I didn't know everything. That wasn't my question. Richard and Brooke handled the insurance claims. And you signed the site reports. I trusted them. You chose them. He made a broken sound. Sarah. One statement from you could give me time. Time to do what? Fix this. You tried fixing it with gasoline. I didn't start the fire. Then investigators will prove it. He began to cry. I had heard Derek cry only twice at my father's funeral, and the day I gave him the money that saved his first project. Don't let them take everything from me, he whispered. I looked around the house he had tried to take from me. I'm not taking anything. Derek, you're helping them. No, I'm simply not standing between you and the consequences anymore. I ended the call. The next morning, 2 state investigators entered Mitchell Hardware with Allison beside them. One was from the Pennsylvania State Police. The other introduced herself as an investigator for an insurance fraud task force. She placed a clear evidence sleeve on the counter. Inside was a half-burned purchase authorization. My name appeared at the bottom. Sarah Mitchell. The signature looked almost perfect. Ms. Mitchell, the investigator said, watching my face. Did you authorize this transaction? No. Did you know this document was stored at the Whitmore warehouse? No. Did your former husband have access to your signature? Yes. Did anyone else? I thought of Linda opening my father's desk. I thought of Brooke walking through my home as if she already owned it. Then I looked at Allison. She nodded once. Yes, I said. And I have the original records that prove this signature was forged. The investigator leaned forward. How many records? I met her eyes. Enough to show that the warehouse fire wasn't the beginning of the crime. I placed my hand on the locked office door behind me. It was where someone tried to bury it. The investigator spent nearly 4 hours in my office. I gave them copies of the forged purchase agreement, the supplier login records, the list Evan had brought me, and every email connected to Whitmore Construction. Allison sat beside me and interrupted whenever a question became too broad. Investigator Rachel Barnes opened one of the invoices. This order was placed through your business account at 2:14 a.m. I was asleep. Who knew the password? Derek did. Anyone else? Linda knew where I kept written account information before I changed the locks. Barnes glanced at the state trooper beside her. Your former mother-in-law? Yes. Did she work for Mitchell Hardware? No. Why would she have access? Because she lived in my house. And I trusted her. Barnes studied my face. Do you still trust her? No. Allison placed a hand over the folder before Barnes could turn another page. My client has answered the question. Barnes nodded. I'm not trying to upset you, Ms. Mitchell. I'm trying to determine whether Derek Collins acted alone. He didn't. You sound certain. Because he was never organized enough to build something this complicated. The trooper almost smiled. Barnes did not. Who was? Brooke Whitmore. What makes you believe that? She knew which orders were being questioned. She discussed my supplier account before I ever told her I had found the unauthorized charges. And when the warehouse caught fire, she disappeared. Barnes leaned back. Brooke Whitmore contacted our office through an attorney this morning. My stomach tightened. Where is she? She claimed she left town because she was afraid of Derek. I laughed before I could stop myself. Barnes watched me. What's funny? Brooke convinced Derek to leave his marriage, promised him her father's company, sent him to that warehouse, and vanished while it burned. Now she's afraid of him? That is her statement. What else did she say? Barnes closed the file. She says Derek discovered accounting irregularities and threatened to expose the Whitmores unless Mr. Whitmore transferred ownership to him. That's a lie. She says he used your store's account without her knowledge. That's also a lie. She says he became obsessed with taking control of the company. That part might be true. Allison looked at me. I continued. Derek wanted the company. He liked the idea of being important. But Brooke fed that fantasy because it made him useful. Barnes folded her hands. Useful how? His name was on the project approvals. Mine was on the payment authorization. If the fraud was discovered, Brooke and Richard could say the project manager acted without permission. Can you prove Brooke altered the records? Not by myself. Can Mr. Porter? If subpoenaed. Barnes nodded and wrote something down. The investigators took copies, not originals. Before leaving, Barnes said, do not contact Derek, Brooke, or Richard Whitmore about this investigation. I wasn't planning to. If any of them contact you, save everything. Derek called 9 times that afternoon. I saved every voicemail. The first was angry. Sarah, you had no right to give private company records to the police. The second was desperate. You don't understand what Brooke did. Please call me. By the 5th message, he was crying. I know I hurt you, But I'm not the person they're saying I am. By the 9th, he was bargaining. If you tell them the account access was a misunderstanding, I'll sign over everything. My retirement account, the truck, whatever you want. He still believed everything had a price. That evening, Linda called from the hospital. Her voice sounded weak, but the weakness disappeared whenever I refused her. Sarah, I need you to come here. No, I can barely breathe. Then use the call button. The nurses are busy. They are still more qualified than I am. You know my medications. Your chart knows them too. She went quiet. Then she said, Derek is in terrible trouble. I know. He says you gave the police documents. Yes. How could you do that? Someone forged my signature. Derek would never forge your name. I didn't say he did. Then why are you punishing him? I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting myself. Linda began to cry. I made a mistake. I waited. I shouldn't have supported the divorce. She continued. I shouldn't have listened to Brooke. That's true. She fooled all of us. No, Linda. She offered you what you wanted. What was that supposed to mean? A rich daughter-in-law and a successful son. I only wanted Derek to have a good life. You wanted him to have Brooke's money. That isn't fair. You told me I didn't need my own house because I was one woman. I was angry. You packed my mother's silver. I put it back. Because I caught you. Her breathing became uneven. Are you going to hold every mistake against me forever? You still think the problem is that I remember. What do you want me to say? The truth. I told you Brooke fooled me. That isn't the whole truth. She sighed sharply. What more do you want? I want you to admit that when you were sick, you called me your daughter because you needed me. When you recovered and saw a wealthier woman, you decided I was disposable. That's cruel. It's accurate. You don't understand what it's like to worry about your child's future. I worried about Derek's future for 8 years. I paid for it. Linda stopped speaking. Then, in a smaller voice, she said, Brooke never came to the hospital. No, she hasn't called. No, she said we would be family. She said whatever made you useful. Linda started crying again. This time, I felt sorry for her. But sympathy was not the same as surrender. Sarah, she whispered, please come sit with me. I hope you recover. Linda, that isn't what I asked. I know. I ended the call. The story spread through Maple Glen before the fire department finished its report. By the next morning, everyone had an opinion. Some customers told me I was lucky to escape Derek. Others lowered their voices and asked whether I had known about the fraud before the warehouse burned. A contractor named Bill Harlan cornered me near the lumber desk. If you had those invoices, why didn't you warn Derek? I did warn him about the account. I mean about Whitmore. He knew more about Whitmore than I did. Bill frowned. He could go to prison. That is between Derek and the investigators. You were married to him. Yes. Doesn't that count for something? It counted when he wanted my credit. Bill looked embarrassed. That isn't what I meant. It's what everyone means. You think being his former wife makes me responsible for stopping him from committing crimes. I'm only saying maybe he got in over his head. He did. So you admit he was manipulated. Being manipulated doesn't erase the choices he made while enjoying the benefits. Bill shook his head. You sound cold. My employee Jake stepped out from behind the counter. She sounds like someone whose name was forged. Bill muttered something and walked away. I turned to Jake. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. No, you work here. You don't have to defend my personal life. He folded his arms. Your personal life almost put the store $400,000 in debt. That made it workplace business. For the first time in days, I smiled. 3 days later, Richard Whitmore was arrested. He was taken from his office after investigators found duplicate insurance claims, altered inspection reports, and payments to a shell company controlled by one of his cousins. His attorney released a statement saying Richard had trusted senior employees and was shocked to discover misconduct inside his company. Senior employees meant Derek. Brooke's attorney released a statement too. She claimed Derek had pressured her into a relationship, manipulated her father, and secretly used company resources for personal gain. When I read it, I almost admired the nerve. Brooke had pursued him publicly. She had attended my family dinner. She had promised him the company. Now she described herself as his victim. Derek was discharged from the hospital with bandages around his left arm and shoulder. His attorney arranged for him to surrender his passport and remain in Pennsylvania while the investigation continued. He came to the store that afternoon. Jake saw him first. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. Derek stopped inside the door. "I need 5 minutes with Sarah." "You need an appointment." "This is my wife." "Ex-wife," I said from behind the counter. His eyes moved to me. He looked thinner. The confidence that once filled every room had disappeared. His face was pale, and one sleeve hung loosely over the bandages. "Please," he said. I told Jake, "Stay close." Derek's mouth tightened. "You think I'm dangerous?" "I think you're desperate." He looked around the store. "I built those shelves." I followed his gaze. "You installed them." "My work is everywhere in here." "No, Derek. My father's work is everywhere. Mine is too. You help sometimes." His face twisted as if I had struck him. "I came to apologize." "For what?" "All of it. That's not specific enough." He stepped closer. "For Brooke. For the divorce. For asking for the house. And the fraudulent orders?" I didn't understand what they were doing. "Evan warned you." His eyes dropped. "He said the materials didn't match. And you signed anyway." "Brooke said the documents would be corrected." "You believed her because she promised you the company." "Yes." The answer came out like a confession. He looked at me again. "I know how stupid that sounds. It sounds greedy. I wanted to prove I could become something without you." I stared at him. "There it is." "What?" "The truth." His mouth trembled. "Every time someone in this town praised the store, they praised your father. Then they praised you. When they talked about me, I was always Sarah Mitchell's husband. You resented me. I resented needing you. So you took everything I gave you and used it as evidence that I made you small. I didn't understand that then. And now? Now I understand Brooke chose me because my name could go on the paperwork." His voice cracked. "She never planned to marry me." "No. She never planned to give me the company." "No. She made me sign things." "You signed them." "I know." He took another step. Jake moved closer. Derek stopped. "My attorney says the prosecution may charge me with insurance fraud, destruction of evidence, an arson conspiracy." "Did you start the fire?" "No." "Did you go there to destroy records?" His eyes filled with tears. "I went there to remove them." "That isn't better." "I didn't know she had disabled the sprinkler system." "Who told you she did?" "The fire marshal said the controls were manually shut off before we arrived." "Brooke had the security code. Did she tell you to burn the records?" "She told me to make sure the old files couldn't be used against us." "Us?" I thought she meant the company. "She meant herself." Derek nodded. His shoulders sagged. "I need your help." "No. You don't even know what I'm asking." "Yes, I do. My attorney thinks you can clarify the supplier account. There is nothing unclear. You gave me permission before. For legitimate orders. If you tell them the account was shared during our marriage, it could show I wasn't trying to steal from you. You were using it after I told you to stop." "Sarah, please." "No. One statement could keep the forgery charge from being added. My signature was forged. I didn't do it." "Then tell them who did." "I don't know. Ask Brooke." His face crumpled. "She won't speak to me. That is not my problem." He looked toward the office. "You still have the original files?" "Yes. Destroying me won't undo what happened between us. Keeping evidence is not destroying you. You're enjoying this." The accusation was weak, but it still hurt. I stepped closer. "Do you know what I enjoyed, Derek? I enjoyed watching you get your first project. I enjoyed hearing my father tell people you were hardworking. I enjoyed believing every dollar I gave you was building our life." His eyes reddened. "I loved you. You loved what I made possible." "That isn't true." "Then why did you ask for my house after choosing Brooke?" He looked away. I continued. "You wanted her. Her father's company. My credit. My suppliers. And my inheritance. You didn't want a new life. You wanted both women to finance the version of you that you admired." "I'm sorry. I believe you're sorry now. Isn't that enough?" "No." He stood there for several seconds, breathing heavily. Then he whispered, "There's a hearing Friday." "I know. My attorney says the judge may increase bail. That is between you and your attorney. If I lose the house, you don't own a house." He flinched. "I meant Brooke's condo. Brooke owns it. She changed the locks." I said nothing. He laughed bitterly. "Everybody changed the locks. You gave us reasons." He left without another word. Friday's hearing drew half the town. Reporters waited outside the county courthouse. Whitmore construction employees stood together, whispering whenever Richard's name was mentioned. Linda sat in a wheelchair beside Megan, wearing a hospital mask. When she saw me, she reached out. "Sarah." I stopped several feet away. "You look better." "I'm still having trouble breathing." "I'm sorry. Will you sit with us?" "No." Megan glared at me. "Mom almost died. And I'm glad she didn't." "That doesn't sound like it." Linda touched Megan's arm. "Stop." It was the first time she had ever stopped her daughter from attacking me. Linda looked up at me. "Derek says you won't help him." "That's correct. He's terrified." "He should be." Her eyes filled. "He was a good man once." "Yes. Doesn't that matter?" "It matters to me. It won't erase what he did." The courtroom hearing lasted less than an hour. The prosecutor described evidence of fraudulent contracts, unauthorized insurance claims, and deliberate efforts to remove records from the warehouse. Derek's attorney argued that Brooke and Richard had manipulated him. The judge released Derek under strict conditions, but warned that additional charges were likely. Outside, reporters crowded around the courthouse steps. Allison guided me toward the parking lot. Then Derek called my name. I kept walking. "Sarah, wait." His footsteps followed. When I turned, he was standing several feet away, pale and shaking. His attorney tried to stop him. Derek ignored her. "Please," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Tell them I came to your house that night." The reporters went silent. Allison stepped in front of me. "Do not speak to my client." Derek dropped to his knees. Gasps spread through the crowd. Megan covered her mouth. Linda began crying. Derek looked up at me. "One sentence." He begged. "Say I was with you before I went to the warehouse." "You weren't." "I stopped near the store." "You stood across the street." "That counts." "No, it doesn't." "Say I came inside." "I won't." His face twisted. "If you tell them I was helping you fix the back door, it gives my attorney another timeline." "The door I changed weeks before?" "You can say you don't remember the exact date." "You're asking me to lie under oath." "I'm asking you to save me." Reporters raised their phones. Derek reached toward me. Allison blocked him. He cried openly now. "Sarah, please. I know I failed you. I know I chose wrong. But one statement from you could keep me out of prison." I looked down at him. "When did you decide you wanted to give me a better life?" "Derek, before or after you asked me to finance it while you slept with your boss's daughter?" His face went red. I was confused. "You were greedy. I loved her. And now? She used me." "That doesn't mean you loved me." He shook his head violently. "I do love you." "No. You love that I'm the last person who might still rescue you." "That isn't true." "Then stand up and tell the truth." "The truth makes me look guilty." I felt something inside me settle. Not anger. Certainty. One lie from me could destroy the life I finally got back. I said, "I will not trade my freedom for yours." He stared at me. "You're really going to let me go to prison?" "No. I'm going to let the evidence decide." I turned away. Behind me, Linda called my name. I did not stop. That afternoon, investigators found Brooke at a hotel near Newark Liberty International Airport. She had purchased a ticket to Lisbon and withdrawn nearly $80,000 from a company account. She was arrested before reaching security. When questioned, she blamed Derek again. But the laptop found in her room contained draft purchase orders, altered delivery records, and copies of my signature. Richard was arrested on additional fraud charges. Brooke's attorney began discussing cooperation. Derek's attorney called Allison and asked whether I would reconsider testifying about the supplier account. I refused. 2 days later, Linda requested to meet me at the courthouse. She sat alone on a bench, twisting a tissue between her fingers. I thought Brooke was going to give Derek everything. She said. I remained standing. She did. Linda looked up. What? She gave him every crime she didn't want attached to her own name. Linda began to cry. I pushed you out. Yes, I thought you were holding him back. I know. And now he has nothing. He still has the truth. She covered her face. I helped move those boxes. Why? Brooke said they were old tax files. She said Richard wanted them reorganized before the audit. Did you know Derek was destroying records? Linda's hand stopped moving. I knew he was scared. That wasn't my question. Her eyes darted away. I saw him put papers in a metal drum. And you stayed. He said it was temporary. Burning documents is not temporary. I didn't know the warehouse would catch fire. But you knew something was wrong. She nodded once. I felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Allison came through the courthouse doors holding an envelope. She waited until Linda left before handing it to me. What is this? Preliminary approval from your business insurer. They've accepted that Mitchell hardware was used without authorization. I read the first page. The claim could cover the fraudulent charges and legal expenses connected to the forged documents. For the first time, the store might survive without carrying the cost of Derek's choices. Then I saw Allison's expression. There's more, I said. She nodded. Derek gave another statement. What did he say? He claims he didn't provide Brooke with samples of your signature. Then how did she get them? He says Linda gave him documents from your father's study. I looked toward the doors through which Linda had just left. What documents? Old tax forms, insurance papers, and a copy of the deed. My stomach tightened. Allison continued. Derek says he gave them to Brooke because she needed proof the house could be refinanced. So Linda helped them take my signature. Possibly. Did she know what they would do? We don't know. I folded the letter slowly. Allison watched me. What are you thinking? That Linda spent months telling everyone Brooke was a better daughter-in-law. And? I looked down the hallway where she had disappeared. I'm wondering whether she only helped Brooke forge my name. Allison's expression sharpened. Or whether she signed something herself. For the first time since the fire, I understood that the warehouse had not destroyed the most dangerous evidence. It had only scattered the ashes far enough for all of us to see where they came from. Linda did not forge my signature. For 3 days, I believed she might have. I believed it when Allison requested copies of every document taken from my father's study. I believed it when investigators questioned Linda again. I believed it when Megan called and accused me of trying to send a sick woman to jail. Then Rachel Barnes showed me the evidence. The signature was traced from this. She said. She placed a photocopy of an old homeowner's insurance form on the table. My father had kept it in his desk. My signature appeared near the bottom because I had been listed as the secondary contact after his first heart attack. Beside it was a printout recovered from Brooke's laptop. My signature had been enlarged, cleaned, and placed on a blank digital template. I stared at the 2 images. So Brooke did it. She created the digital signature. Barnes said. We found earlier versions in her deleted files. And Linda? She gave Derek the insurance form and the deed copy. Did she know why? Barnes's expression remained neutral. She says Derek told her the documents were needed for a refinancing application. That should have been enough for her to know it was wrong. Yes. Is she being charged? Not with forgery. The district attorney is reviewing her role in removing records from the warehouse and interfering with the investigation. Allison sat beside me. Did Mrs. Collins receive money from Whitmore Construction? Barnes opened another folder. Brooke transferred $12,000 to her account 2 weeks before the fire. My stomach tightened. For what? The payment description says consulting. I almost laughed. Linda has never worked in construction. We asked her about it. What did she say? She said Brooke told her it was an advance for helping Derek settle into his future position. A bribe. That may be how prosecutors describe it. I looked at the payment record again. Linda had accepted money from the woman who wanted my husband, my house, and my signature. Then she had told me I was selfish. Did Derek know about the payment? I asked. He says no. Do you believe him? Barnes closed the folder. My belief doesn't determine the charges. It was the kind of answer investigators gave when the real answer was complicated. Brooke had built the scheme. Richard had benefited from it. Derek had signed documents he knew were false. Linda had helped because she wanted the future Brooke promised. No one was completely innocent. They had only been guilty in different amounts. The criminal cases took nearly 10 months to resolve. Richard Whitmore fought every charge. His attorneys blamed Derek, blamed Brooke, blamed former employees, and eventually blamed poor record-keeping. They argued that Richard was an aging businessman who had trusted the wrong people. The prosecutors showed that the fraudulent insurance claims began years before Derek became a project manager. Richard had ordered employees to report materials as stolen after reselling them. He had submitted inflated damage reports after storms. He had charged public projects for high-grade materials and installed cheaper substitutes. He had not trusted the wrong people. He had hired the right people to carry out the wrong work. Brooke agreed to cooperate after prosecutors confronted her with the files from her laptop. She admitted altering invoices, creating false purchase orders, and placing Derek's name on projects likely to be audited. She insisted the warehouse fire was never part of her plan. According to her, she told Derek to remove the records and dispose of anything that connected the company to the insurance claims. She denied telling him to burn them. Derek said Brooke had instructed him to make sure there was nothing left to find. The truth was probably somewhere between those two statements. The fire marshal concluded that an old fuel heater had leaked after someone moved it. Investigators also proved that the sprinkler system had been shut down before Derek and Linda entered the building. Brooke had used her security code that afternoon. She claimed she shut it off because the pipes were malfunctioning. No one believed her. Still, there was not enough evidence to prove she intended to trap Derek and Linda in the fire. There was enough to prove conspiracy, insurance fraud, forgery, obstruction, and destruction of evidence. Richard received a prison sentence and was ordered to pay restitution. Brooke pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence, but the judge rejected her request for probation. You treated people as tools, the judge told her. When those tools became inconvenient, you attempted to discard them. Brooke showed no emotion until the bailiff moved toward her. Then she turned toward Derek. "This is your fault," she said. Derek sat behind his attorney. His face changed, but he did not answer. For the first time, Brooke could not make him speak when she wanted him to. Derek pleaded guilty to insurance fraud, falsifying project records, and obstruction. The arson charge was reduced because investigators could not prove he intentionally started the fire. He still received prison time. He also lost his professional certifications and was barred from managing public construction projects after his release. Linda pleaded guilty to tampering with evidence and received probation, community service, and a large fine. At her sentencing, she used a cane she no longer medically needed. The judge noticed. "Mrs. Collins," he said, "your physical condition may explain why you were dependent on others. It does not explain why you agreed to help conceal documents." Linda gripped the cane. "I was trying to protect my son. You were protecting the future you hoped to receive from his crimes." Her face went pale. The judge continued. "You accepted money. You moved evidence. You ignored obvious warning signs. Being a mother does not grant immunity from judgment." Linda began to cry. For years, tears had brought someone running to rescue her. This time, the courtroom remained still. After the hearing, Megan followed me into the hallway. "You must be happy." I turned. "Why would I be happy? Mom was humiliated in there. She pleaded guilty. She made one mistake. She made several." Megan crossed her arms. "You never miss a chance to remind us." "No, Megan," the court reminded her. "You could have asked the prosecutor for leniency. I told the truth when I was asked. You could have said she didn't understand what was happening. She accepted $12,000. She thought it was a gift from her son's girlfriend while he was still married to me." Megan's mouth tightened. "She lost everything. She lost access to my house. Those aren't the same thing. She's living in a one-bedroom apartment. So are millions of people. She can barely afford it." I knew what came next. "Are you asking me for money?" Her eyes shifted away. "Just until Derek gets out. Derek won't be earning money when he gets out. He can find something. He will have to. Mom needs help now. You can help her. I have my own bills. So do I. You have the insurance money." I stared at her. The settlement had not even been finalized. Yet Megan already considered it family money. "That money is covering losses caused by your brother and the Whitmores. There will be some left." "Yes, then why can't you help Mom?" "Because helping someone is a gift. Megan, it is not a contract that makes me responsible for them forever. She was your mother-in-law. She helped her son try to take my inheritance. She said she was sorry." "No, she said she was sorry Brooke didn't keep her promises." "That's not fair." "It's accurate." Megan's face reddened. "You've changed." "I hope so. You used to care about people." "I still do. I've learned that caring about someone doesn't require me to fund every consequence they create." She shook her head. "You're going to end up alone in that giant house. A year earlier, those words would have frightened me. Now they only sounded familiar." I smiled. The house has never been the problem. She walked away without saying goodbye. Derek wrote to me before his sentencing. The letter was 14 pages long. He began with apologies, then explanations, then memories. He wrote about our first date at a diner outside Harrisburg. He remembered the night my father taught him to repair a furnace. He remembered sleeping beside me on the living room floor after Dad died because I could not bear to enter my father's bedroom. Then he wrote the part that mattered. I was jealous of you, Sarah. I read the sentence 3 times. He continued. Everyone respected you before I entered a room. Contractors trusted you because they trusted your father. Customers knew your name. You owned the store and the house. I told myself I was building my own career. But every opportunity came through you. When Brooke looked at me, I felt like I was the powerful one. She needed my signature. She needed my access. She told me I was the only person capable of taking over the company. I wanted to believe her more than I wanted to protect you. The honesty hurt more than another lie would have. At the end, Derek asked me to visit. Allison advised against it. You owe him nothing, she said. I know. Then why go? Because I need to hear him say it without a letter between us. The county jail allowed visits through thick glass before sentencing. Derek sat across from me wearing a plain uniform. He had lost weight. The burns on his arm had healed into pink scars. For a moment, neither of us picked up the phone. Then he lifted his receiver. I did the same. You came, he said. Once. His eyes filled. I didn't think you would. I read your letter. Did you believe it? Yes. He looked down. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. It makes it honest. I should have been honest years ago. Yes. He pressed his hand against the glass. I kept mine in my lap. I hated that people thought I needed you, he said. You did need me. I know. And I needed you too. He looked up quickly. You did? I needed the man I thought you were. His face crumpled. I was that man once. Maybe. I loved you. I believe you did. Then how did I do this? Because love wasn't the only thing you felt. He nodded slowly. I wanted people to look at me the way they looked at Richard. They were afraid of Richard. I thought it was respect. You thought money could change the way you felt about yourself. He gave a broken laugh. Brooke said the same thing about you. What? She said you only looked confident because you owned everything. And you believed her? I wanted to. He rubbed his forehead. When she first mentioned the company, I thought I could leave you, marry her, take over Whitmore, and repay whatever I owed you. You wanted to compensate me after replacing me. I know how that sounds. It sounds like you thought my love was another loan. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. I know. Can you forgive me? I looked at the man behind the glass. For months, I had imagined that question. I thought I would feel powerful when he asked it. Instead, I felt tired. I forgive myself, I said. His brows drew together. For what? For staying after I knew you were lying. For confusing sacrifice with love. For believing that if I gave enough, you would remember to value me. What about me? I don't know yet. He nodded, tears moving down his face. I understand. No, Derek, you don't need my forgiveness to serve your sentence. Rebuild your life. Or become someone better. I need to know you don't hate me. I don't hate you. His shoulders dropped. But I will never trust you again. He closed his eyes. I thought maybe after I got out. No, you didn't let me finish. I don't need to. I could change. I hope you do. For us. There is no us. He pressed his palm harder against the glass. Sarah, please. I came because you finally told the truth. Don't ruin that by turning it into another request. He slowly lowered his hand. I stood. Take care of yourself. Derek. He picked up the phone again when he realized I was leaving. Sarah. I paused. I'm sorry about the house, he said. Your father trusted me. Yes. I betrayed him too. Yes. That answer hurt him. It also set me free. The insurance settlement arrived 6 weeks later. Mitchell Hardware recovered the money connected to the unauthorized orders. The court ordered Whitmore Construction's remaining assets to cover unpaid invoices and part of my legal expenses. After debts and fees, I had enough to repair the store. Everyone assumed I would modernize it beyond recognition. A consultant from Pittsburgh suggested replacing the old wood counter, changing the name, and turning the business into a regional home improvement brand. He tapped his proposal. Mitchell Hardware sounds small. It is small. That limits growth. It defines the community we serve. You could franchise. I don't want to franchise. He looked confused. Then what do you want? I thought of Mrs. Donnelly's expired smoke detector. I thought of Linda after surgery, frightened to walk alone. I thought of how many elderly customers came into the store asking questions because they did not know whom else to call. I want people to stay safely in their homes. That became the Safe at Home initiative. We offered low-cost safety inspections for seniors and residents with disabilities. We installed grab bars, brighter lighting, non-slip flooring, railings, stronger locks, and smoke detectors. Some work was paid. Some was supported by donations. For customers who could not afford anything, we used part of the settlement fund. Jake became the project coordinator. When I offered him the job, he stared at me. You're serious? You've been acting like a manager for months. I thought you hated that. I hated Derek acting like an owner. That's different. Exactly. Our first client was Mrs. Donnelly. She argued about every improvement. I don't need a railing. You fell twice last winter. I slipped. Twice. The ice was aggressive. Jake turned away so she would not see him laughing. We installed the railing. The following week, she brought a fruitcake to the store. Jake stared at it. I thought this program was about safety. It is, she said. That's why I brought enough for everyone. The store became busier than it had been in years. Not because of a clever advertisement or a wealthy investor, because people trusted us. The same thing Derek had once resented became the foundation of everything I built next. I repaired the house too. I removed the heavy furniture from Linda's old room and turned it into an office for the community program. I repainted the kitchen. I repaired the porch and restored my father's study. When the contractor asked whether I wanted to replace the old front door, I said no, just the lock. He held up two options. This one is more expensive. Is it better? Yes, I'll take it. For the first few months, I still listened for Derek's truck at night. Sometimes I caught myself planning meals for two. Sometimes I opened the cabinet and saw the tea Linda used to drink after physical therapy. I did not throw everything away. Healing was not a performance. I did not need to erase every sign that they had lived there. I only needed to stop treating their absence as proof that something was missing. Linda wrote me a short letter after completing 3 months of community service. She did not ask for money. That surprised me. I was wrong about many things. She wrote, Brooke was not the first person who used my pride. I used it too. I wanted people to believe my son was important. And I stopped caring who had to be hurt for that to happen. You cared for me when I had nothing to give you. I repaid you by helping someone take from you. I do not expect forgiveness. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I did not answer. Not every apology required a reunion. 1 year after the warehouse fire, Halloween returned to Maple Glen. Mitchell Hardware held its safety event again. We handed out smoke detectors, reflective tape, and candy. Jake wore a plastic firefighter helmet because Mrs. Donnelly insisted the children needed professional leadership. Near the end of the evening, I saw Megan across the street. Linda stood beside her with a cane. This time, she seemed to need it. They watched the people moving in and out of the store. Linda looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. The certainty she once carried had disappeared. Megan said something to her. Linda shook her head. Then she looked directly at me. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. She lifted one hand. Not a wave. A small acknowledgement. I nodded once. She did not cross the street. I did not invite her. That was enough. After the last family left, Jake placed the remaining candy on the counter. You taking that home? No. Good. You're 30 years old, and chocolate remains age appropriate. I handed him the bowl. Lock the back door when you leave. Yes, boss. I walked home alone. The house was quiet when I entered, but it no longer felt empty. The office held folders for 12 upcoming safety projects. A neighbor had left fresh bread on the kitchen counter. My father's toolbox sat on the shelf where it belonged. I picked up the old hammer he had used for years. When I was a child, Dad once told me that people misunderstood locks. A good lock isn't meant to keep everyone out, he said. It makes sure only the right people get in. For most of my marriage, I had kept the door open because I thought love meant unlimited access. Derek used my credit. Linda used my care. Megan used my sense of duty. Brooke tried to use my name. Closing the door on them had not made me heartless. It had finally made my life mine. I set the hammer back in the toolbox and walked to the front door. The new lock turned smoothly. For years, I thought saving a family meant holding the door open no matter how badly they treated me. It took losing my marriage to understand the truth. Sometimes saving yourself begins with changing the locks.